Welcome everyone to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim and I'm so happy that you're here today. And today my guest is Katherine Wintsch, like Pinch. Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. And we're going to have a great conversation, particularly around Katherine's book, which is Slay Like a Mother. I really want to add that word on the end that we would normally say that follows mother. And it really could be if you read the book. But nonetheless, let me begin with a quote and then I'll jump in and let Katherine introduce herself. So the quote that we're using is one of Katherine's, and I love it. It is, tell your mind to zip it. Your soul has something to say. So tell us who you are. I know about you. I've read about you, but tell the audience who you are and how did you come up with that quote?
My name is Katherine Wintsch, and I have a couple roles right now. I'm the founder and CEO of a consulting company called the Mom Complex, where we study the lives of women and mothers all around the world. And we help mostly Fortune 500 companies come up with better products and services for mothers. And then I also wrote this book, Slay Like a Mother, that you mentioned. And that quote is from that book because for so many years of my life, this mental chatter, this negative voice in my head was just so overpowering, always telling me that I wasn't good enough, thin enough, nice enough, mom enough, tough enough. And it just really wore me out. And through meditation and therapy, I learned to get my mind to zip it. And then now I can really listen to my intuition and kind of my, what my soul has to say.
I love it. So great. So this is Masks Off, where we take off our masks and we return to our true and authentic selves. That's what this show is all about. And so when I was reading your book and you talk about slaying the dragon, and of course, we'll talk a lot more about that in a few moments. I kept thinking slaying the dragon is a lot like removing your masks because the dragon and the masks are interchangeable. And so right from the very beginning of your book, page 7, literally, and I just shared this with you before we started recording, is I'm like, oh my God, it's freaking me. This is me. Like, I felt like we were one and the same when I was reading this, but I want to really draw attention to the bottom of page 7, where you talked about all of your accolades. And you said, by the end of middle school, my picture perfect room was overrun with ribbons and press releases from skiing competitions, soccer pins, gymnastics, excellence in academic certificates, straight A report cards. And I'm thinking, yeah, if I go down the basement and I pull out my containers, I have all those in there. And, one of the hardest masks for me to remove is the perfectionist mask. So can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, if you're a perfectionist, and I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I understand your motivations quite well. And so are so many women that I've studied all around the world. And perfectionism is often a tendency to impress the external world, to have everybody believe that you have everything buttoned up, there's nothing wrong, you don't need any help, there's nothing here to see. And if you overperform in a lot of different areas, then the thought is that it'll make you feel better on the inside, but it just doesn't work that way. And it wasn't until I was 35 that I realized that I had the trappings of success. I had the titles, I had the trophies, I had the accolades, and I had since I was a child, like you said. And I was empty on the inside, and I felt very hollow, and people were impressed, but it wasn't right for me, and I didn't feel good enough about myself. And so it's just fascinating to just cut to the chase. Like, the middleman is the external world. Like, we want to feel better about ourselves, so we want to impress the external world, and then we believe that that will make us feel better about ourselves, but it doesn't. And so if we just cut to the chase and learn to love ourselves, we don't need the runaround of killing ourselves, to try and feel better about ourselves.
I totally agree. And for me, one of the defining moments in my life was when I was 9 years old. Actually, I was 10. I was in 5th grade. And up until 5th grade, I got all the report cards that said, Kim's a pleasure to have in class, AKA she's quiet, she doesn't cause any problems, she doesn't disrupt, she's invisible, so to speak. But I was average. I wasn't getting the accolades at that point. It was just doing my work. And then my fifth grade teacher said to my mom at the parent teacher conference, Kim is capable of doing so much more in her life. She is capable of so much more. And so when I heard that, my ears perked up and I was like, okay, let me start applying myself. And then when I did, I started getting those A's and I started getting those comments on the papers. Excellent job. Like, great, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And so I started liking that feeling because prior to that, just being a 9-year-old, 8-year-old, 7-year-old little girl, just playing in the mud and in the snow, playing in the leaves wasn't enough anymore. It
Yep.
wasn't enough. Or even then it wasn't enough. So,
Well, it's never
yeah.
enough. I mean, that's the thing is you can be 7 years old and, want it. And, if you don't feel good enough on the inside, then the external, validation temporarily can make you feel good about yourself. But as I talk about and say, like a mother, the litmus test is like, if you get a big promotion at work or you accomplish something in your life, even if you don't work outside the home, then it's like, 8 days later, is it gone? Like, does it no longer matter? You no longer care that you became the vice president that you always wanted to become, or you raised the most money for the PTA at your child's school, whatever. Like, you achieve it. And then 8 days later, you're like, what's next? Because it's just a machine and it's going to eat up everything in front of you. And just back to the, topic of the podcast, like the mask. So that's what happens. Like, we don't feel good enough about ourselves. So we very often channel that into perfectionism and, working overtime. But then we wear this mask and we say we don't need help. And we're trying to excel in all these different areas and be seen as a good my wife, daughter, sister, mother, woman, whatever, boss, employee. And then we wear the mask and we don't get the help that we need and deserve because we're too embarrassed to ask for it, because it all stems from the fact that we don't think we're worthy.
And then resentment sets in as well at that point.
Oh yeah,
Showing
we're fantastic at that. Like, we're so overworked and overwhelmed, and in our minds we know we need this help and everything, but we never ask for it, and we get so pissed when
yeah.
people aren't helpful. And I have found in my own journey that when I opened up and I asked for help, people want to help you.
Yeah.
And they want to support you, and all it takes is a little bravery, a little honesty.
And I would add on to that, not only asking for help, and that's very hard for the people pleaser, which is the other mask that I have worn and I talk about all the time. But in addition to that, like, cut back on stuff. You know what I mean? Cut back. You don't have to take on everything that you do. So I just did a TikTok on how I used to have over 30 people on my Christmas list, 30 people that I used to buy for. It was insane. And it wasn't even like just one gift, it was multiple gifts. And then I had to wrap them all. And then all the other things to get ready for the holiday, getting the food, buying the food. And then by the time Christmas would roll along, I was exhausted. But who was telling me that I had to buy for that many people and that many gifts and that I had to do all of that work? No one was holding a gun to my head and saying, Kim, you need to do this. I was doing it again, Katherine, for that external validation, because then at the end of the day, I was like, oh, this was such a wonderful holiday. And oh my God, what a great gift. It was more of that outside stuff.
Yeah, it becomes like water and you're thirsty, and it feels good. And but it's just too much. Like, we just can't stretch ourselves that thin. And people don't care about the stuff we do as much as we think they care about the things that we do. And and when you start backing away from things, you really start to realize that, like, the world doesn't need all these extras as much as we're doing them for, like you said, the accolades. And I just stopped sending Christmas cards last year. I was like, I can't do it anymore. It was
Yes.
so stressful for me. And inevitably I would mess up the program with the addresses. And then whatever. It was just long and it was stressful and it was really expensive. It was hundreds of dollars.
Yep.
And I was sending them back to, I mean, geez, like just people we barely even know. And then I'd get stressed out when the new ones came. And then I was like, oh, we don't have them on their list. Anyway, I was like, I'm done. And I feel so much relief. I didn't realize how much that was really like hanging over my head, even like mentally, not just, the physical labor.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you, how does it feel now that you're not sending those Christmas cards to all those people that are used to getting them from you?
Yeah, I honestly haven't really thought about it. Like it's been so much of a relief for me, but I got one yesterday from somebody that I really love. And I thought, I wonder if she thinks I don't send them anymore, or that I just took her off, my list. But then I also thought, like, when I go into people's homes, I see 50 to 75 cards. Like, do people really even know that I didn't send one? Like, there's a lot, I guess
Yeah.
people are sitting around like, I don't know, where's my card?
And you know what? And listen, at the end of the day, it's okay to send Christmas cards. We're off on a tangent on Christmas cards, but there's an underlying message. If you love doing that and that makes your heart sing, do it by all means. But if you're doing it from guilt or obligation or shame, cut the shit out. Like, just stop.
Just stop. Yeah, it's
Just
like, and that
stop.
goes back to, I wrote a blog post on this one time. It goes back to, what is your intention? If your intention of sending a Christmas card is to document your family, to have a nice photo, to save it in the photo album, and oh, by the way, you send it to other people, have at it. But if your intention is to not let people down, or for people to not think that you're lazy or don't care about them, like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine that's going to be the takeaway,
Exactly. Exactly. I'm with you on that. Okay. So I want to go to page 36 then. So you said, you shared, for years I did whatever it took to hide my wounds. But trust me, when I tell you that wounds can be healed, and when they are, you will begin to experience life in a whole new way. When you're no longer contaminated by the idea that you need to please, prove, and perfect your way through life, you begin to see small, magical moments of joy in everyday occasions. Oh, that's saying to my heart, because that's who I work with, people pleasers and perfectionists. And that was me. Please, perform, perfect. So tell us, can you elaborate a little bit on that in your journey to going from prison to paradise?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely a people, pleaser, and my self-esteem was absolutely drawn from the external world, and then it's fleeting, right? Like you got to wait for it, you got to work up for it. It's not every day, it's not in your control, but that's just the way I thought the world was. And then I just started to feel like maybe I was having like a double life, in the sense that people were like, oh, it's so neat what you're doing at work. Oh, you must be so proud. On the outside, I was like, yeah. And on the inside, I was like, no.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not fulfilled. And it seems to the outside world that I should be. I get that narrative. Like people are looking at my career, my husband, but like and those were wonderful things for me, but I just felt very hollow and empty, on the inside, which was hard for people to understand, but I get it. I was wearing a mask for 20 years. So, what do you expect? But, now, like, back to that quote, like, I'm in control of my joy. I'm in control of my happiness. I can be lit on fire on the inside just from seeing a flower. I mean, I know it sounds so like dainty and, frou-frou, but that when your world and your self-esteem is based on the external world, like it's in limbo all the time, and so it's just magical to be reminded that I'm in control of my self-esteem and how I feel about myself. And it's a practice, I still have to work at it, but I'm a hell of a lot better at it now than I was before.
Hallelujah. I hear you on that. And, I think I'll add in too, is that wearing all those masks for so many years, it's like I saw the world, I was looking at the world through like a shroud, if that makes sense. So things weren't clear. And now that I'm working on healing from within and I'm learning to remove the masks, that's why I am seeing the world so much clearer than I used to. So that if I see a beautiful sunset, like right now I'm in New York, but when I'm in Florida, in Melbourne, my house in Florida, I have the most freaking amazing sunsets. And I see them every single day. And one would think like, okay, you saw it yesterday. Like, but every day I see that freaking sunset. It's so magical and beautiful. And it reminds me of how grateful I am just to be alive. And I could not have said that to you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because I would have been looking at the world through this shroud.
Yeah, I like to think about it as it's like gunk on a mirror.
Yes.
Like you can't see your true self. You can't see the world for what it is. Like it's coded in something and you kind of have to work through that and get it off and then you can see clearly. And now I can make decisions so quickly about my life, about any decision, where when you're making decisions based on other people, doesn't that take so much longer? Like, oh, what's this person gonna think? How am I gonna do? I gotta say yes, can I say no, can I say maybe, can I and now I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that,
Yeah.
or whatever. It's just faster, it's easier, because another metaphor I use is like a sailboat. And when I was relying on my self-esteem from the outside world, there was no rudder on the sailboat. So when the winds would blow and it was like I did something wrong or something didn't go my way, it was like, it was nauseous.
Yes.
Versus like now with therapy and lots of self-help book and podcasts like this and listening to them and learning from other women, like I built a really deep rudder so that the winds still blow, they just don't blow me over anymore.
Absolutely. And what you're also saying too, that I'm hearing, is by um, tuning in more to your authentic self, you are more in the place of having authentic yeses and authentic nos. So it's like a hell
Right,
yes,
right,
hell yes,
right.
this is a yes, or
Yes,
hell no, I'm not doing that. So that
yes,
becomes so much clearer. But when you wear the people pleaser mask, as thick as I used to wear it, you
yeah,
don't know what's yes and no for yourself.
right, right.
Whatever
And
depends
you
on the
don't
person in front of you.
don't end up in situations that are like bad energy, that you just don't want to do. So, for
Yes.
example, my son's school, they have a fundraiser every year, and we went to my husband and I went one year, and it's not our thing. It's not our thing to get dressed up in fancy clothes and stand around, and make small talk and all the expense of it just to, and we're like, we're just going to make a donation to the school, but we're not going to the event.
Yeah.
And it's like that's a whole evening, that's hours of time that you can still give back and do good, but you don't have to say yes just because it looks bad if you're not there. Like
Yeah.
it's a terrible way to make decisions, and it's so easy, and we all fall into it, but we have the ability to get out of it. And I'm not a magician, I didn't wave a magic wand. Like I'm just a woman from Richmond, Virginia, and I did the hard work and the homework, and I learned how to love myself. And
Mm.
so if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's a practice, it takes work. And it sounds like you were in a place where you didn't have a choice. Like you just reached a point, it sounds like, that you were like, I got to figure this shit out. Like I
Yeah.
got to learn to love myself, right?
Yeah, totally. And I love how did you just say that? It was hard work and hard work and homework, did you say?
That I did the hard work and the homework
The
to
hard
learn
work and
about
yeah,
myself and learn about, we study math and science and, the weather, but we never study ourselves. But I really studied myself. And
me too.
like, yeah, yeah,
Me too. But I mean, personal growth is my core value. My two core values are growth and connection. So thus doing this. But I have been a seeker since I was little, and I've been on a path for 25 years of just, my first Al-Anon meeting, I think I was 28 when I went, and I'm 54 now. And that was kind of the beginning and opening for me. But it was so many things. I read so many books, took so many courses, and just going inward every day. Like you said, I've gotten a lot better, but I'm not perfect, I'm not all the way there. You have to go inward every freaking day, every time the pattern comes up, because life will come up. And it's about pausing and going inward, and healing the pain from the past that may still be showing up or whatever the case is. So, and then I just want to share too, because you said on the bottom of page 235 is that you said, I realized the hole inside me wasn't a lack of happiness, but a lack of freedom. I felt trapped, caged, chained to a hamster wheel going nowhere. But now with my dragon dead, I'm free, free from feeling stuck, free from hustling to be loved and from a heaviness. And I so resonated with that because I used to feel this heaviness every freaking morning that I woke up. And it was like, oh, I don't want to deal with the day. And now I wake up and I'm not going to say it's perfect. I'll here and there once a month or, a couple times a month, maybe I'll feel it. Then I go in, do a meditation, do some, TLC with myself and I'm good. But it was every day that heaviness. And now to have the freedom and the lightness and spontaneous joy, like that's what you're saying. Can you say a little more about that for you?
Well, one thing I want to say is that that's so beautiful that you've, done the work, and everything you just described, the feeling that you have, the lightness, the freedom, the joy. This is why self-care is not selfish.
Mm-mm.
There is this narrative in the United States that women and mothers in particular are taking care of themselves. It's just not allowed, that we have to be these martyrs and we have to put everybody else before us. And it's kind of branded as being selfish. And I see it in workshops with women all around the world, and they're like, well, I would go get a pedicure, but I don't know what would happen at home. And it's not okay, and so people think it's selfish taking time to read a self-help book, taking bubble baths, but like when you really go inward and you have to have time to do it, it will change your life. It will change your perspective. It will change your beliefs. I mean, it'll change everything. And so I hate that it gets branded as selfish because it makes women, shy away from this really important work.
Absolutely. And they say on airplanes for a reason, put your oxygen mask on before assisting others. And although they mean it literally on an airplane, figuratively, we as women, as moms need to do that as well. We're better for our families, our loved ones, our jobs, our careers when we are taking care of ourselves first.
Yeah.
So I have 5 rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
Are you ready? Okay. What is your favorite food?
French fries.
Ooh, I love French fries. If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Fiji.
What's your favorite way to take care of yourself? We just talked about taking care of yourself.
I love therapy.
Mm.
And I just love learning about myself. And that's how I take care of myself, because the more I learn about myself, the more I can make different decisions and change certain behaviors or do more of something. And it's just a gift that keeps giving.
Without sounding really weird, we are so similar. I'm not even saying that just to say that to you, but I really hear myself in you for sure.
My
Name
husband's always like, why don't you just read trashy romance novels? I'm trying to save my soul.
Yes,
Like,
exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
Oh my God, I hear that. So name one book that changed your life.
I am reading a book right now that's really changing my life, and it's called White Women. And it is about our ignorance towards the Black community, Black women, and it's very eye-opening. And again, back to learning, like I'm really growing, I'm really learning about things that I didn't see before, but I see now and I can't unsee. And I love it. It's really, really, it's a tough read, but it's really needed, and I'm really grateful for the authors.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. What is one tip or takeaway for the listeners?
That don't wait too long to love yourself. I
Mm.
think that eventually we end up in a place where we love ourselves, when we're in our 60s and 70s and 80s, and we care less about what other people think about us. But I think we should all just aim and strive to get there a little bit faster. If we're going there anyway, so if we can just get there at 35 or 45 or 15, or help our teenagers at 55, or help our teenagers at 15, then it's a good way to live.
I love it. I totally agree. I really enjoyed having you on. This was a great conversation. I will have all of your information in the show notes. But just in case someone is listening right here, how can they find you?
You can find us on Instagram at Slay Like a Mother, or you can go to slaylikeamother.com, and you can sign up for our bi-weekly newsletters where we send out lots of tips and tricks for how to slay your dragon of self-doubt.
Love it. Thank you so much, Katherine, for being a guest today. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Masks Off. And if you liked what you heard today, I would love for you to subscribe or hit like, and I will see you next time on Masks Off.